What is up, everyone? It is Midwest Raider coming at you with another video from my channel. If you've never tuned in to Midwest Raider, please lock in, subscribe, do what you got to do if this is helpful at all, or you want to talk some Raider Nation news or things or vent or whatever you want to do, lock into my channel and we will talk about it eventually. All right, so let's talk about this real quick. I've been on for a couple weeks just because I've been totally confused on what's going on with the Raiders. But when you think about it, it's just another Raider season of dysfunction. That's what the Raiders are. From the office all the way down, we are in total disarray and dysfunction. And that's pretty standard for the Raiders. That should be like, instead of committed to excellence back there, you are committed to dysfunction for every year. And then the Mark Davis comes and says that he thinks Josh McDaniels is doing a fantastic job, and that everybody feels they need instant gratification for the year. No, we don't want instant gratification. We would just not shut out by the Saints and get beat by a coach that's never coached before. So instant gratification, no, just a little bit of maybe being able to win a few games this year with a team that a interim coach was able to win with last year, and you still had some of the same players. Now, I don't think the Patriot way is ever going to be the Raiders way, because the Raiders way is the commitment to excellence like John Gruden kind of preached. And John Gruden is the only coach in the 2000s that's ever taken us anywhere. He took us to, the playoffs, very close to a Super Bowl. The next year we did go to the Super Bowl with his team, but then he beat his team because it was his team. And then we went to another 3 years almost with Gruden, and he was fired by, some things he did a long time ago, but definitely didn't look good. And we still were able to make the playoffs with that team that he had. So we haven't had a coach really that has built us very, very well. We had Jack Del Rio that did take us to one game into the playoffs, but Derek Carr, I think, got injured that year. So, yes, we've had a lot of trash coaches that haven't really produced much for the Raiders. Some coaches were good. They just maybe couldn't do it with the players that they had here. But we've had a lot of inconsistency and a lot of problems being the dysfunctional Raiders, because that's what the Raiders are most of the time. And it's sad that the Raider Nation has gotten used to that we're just dysfunction. It's cool to be in the silver and black and represent the silver and black, but we just know our team is going to be trash sometimes. It just sucks. All right, so let's talk about the last couple games that I definitely missed. Very upsetting. I think I was really excited how they played the Chiefs. Actually, even though we lost, that was an exciting, awesome game that I'm like, we came so close. We were like this close. I was like Brian Spillner in Fast and the Furious. I'm like, dude, we almost had you. We almost had you. And then we come and we play decent against the Texans at one point. We beat them. And then we just drop an egg, which we've been doing the last couple of years. There's always like one team that absolutely creams us, that has no reason to cream us, but they absolutely do. So I always take that as the mulligan game. But it was really upsetting for Dennis Allen to be the coach of the Saints, and that happened to the Raiders. But I'm sure he was grinning ear to ear for whatever happened to him against the Raiders. But to not score any points, to not even get across the 50-yard line, that was just the most upsetting game as a fan to watch. Then we play the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we drop a 17-point lead in there at some point. We drop in a 20-point lead against the Cardinals, just making every other team in the NFL look fantastic when they play the Raiders. It is so upsetting as a fan to even have to follow that. So then we go against a team that has as much dysfunction as us, as the Colts this year, and even have a head coach that's never coached ever. And if you think Josh McDaniel has pride as a coach, saying, I have all this Super Bowl rings, I have all this time with Tom Brady and all these fantastic coaches the Patriot way, that you would want to come and play and win at least one game. One game you'd want to win. It's against the Colts, against a coach that's never coached in the NFL. That tells you something right there. We can't beat that team. And I felt really bad for the players that came to play that game. There was some players that came to play. Now, we didn't look very good in the first half, but they did come to play in the second half. And those players were Rock Ya-Sin, was balling out there on defense. Mad Max, of course, always does. Chandler Jones is still on the milk carton. We don't know where he is. Josh Jacobs came to play. Devontae Adams, man, one-man band. Derek Carr was still playing. He didn't have a great game, but he was still playing. A.J. Cole was still special teaming it up. And I always get excited when I see Amir Abdullah come in, because I know we're going to get a couple yards from him, because he still looks like he's trying and still has some tread on the tire. So it was very cool to see those players. I felt really bad for Devontae Adams, man. He was a one-man army. I know Josh McDaniels is like, throw it to him, but you really need to spread the ball around a little bit more. Foster Moreau had a decent game, but really dropped a pass that was crazy, even though it was a great defensive play by their defense. But you got to come up with those plays. Players in that position absolutely have to come up with things to turn this year around, and they're just not. We had a chance in that fourth quarter to pick up a fumble that would have changed that game as well, and the ball just rolled around. Like, we couldn't just fall on a ball. And then Josh McDaniels wants to gratify it by, like, sometimes we tell him to advance the ball, blah, blah, blah. No, just fall on it, man. That's the end of the game. That is big. And then if you watch that play, it's so horrible to watch Mad Max, like, walking up, like, what just happened? Like, and he just turns around in disgust and walks away. Because literally he saw the ball on the ground too when he was trying to run up, and there was a Raider player right there that could have just got it. So it looked bad, but we did lose that game. And the way we lost the game against the Colts, honestly, is momentum switches were instantaneous in that game. Like, we were battling, and then we drove down the field and scored. And momentum, so we got a fumble. And then our offense is, complimentary, took the ball down and scored like we should. And then instantly, the defense lets them come across the field, makes Matt Ryan look like Michael Vick. Nobody can tackle him. 30-some yards, the most yards he's ever had running. Of course, let the Raiders do that. Make the Raiders show every player, show every other team in the NFL, make them look good. And then also we let, somebody, running back on the next play, like, run down the sideline, break tackles. Like, we could have tackled them at like the 5 or 3 or something like that, but they just kind of push them into the end zone. So tackling was horrible at the end of the game. And yes, they've been playing all game and they're tired, but they're NFL players, man. You're getting paid to play. Produce for these fans that are just getting their hearts broken every game. If you don't care about that, then it's just tough to watch these games, and you're paying for a product that's not there as a fan. You got all this merchandise, you're paying for tickets, you're watching it on DirecTV, you're doing this, you're paying for NFL Plus, whatever. You're paying for it, and you're watching a team that's just producing garbage on the field, and it's really, really tough. Now, like I said, it's not all the players, but I honestly do, when Derek Carr broke down in that press conference, that I felt bad, because I believe that certain players aren't bought in and some players are, and it's showing up on the field. Absolutely showing up the field with the 2-7 record. Yes, they're slight wins. They're wins with less than 7 points and those types of things, but we have no luck. Like, statistically, we should have some statistical luck that we should accidentally win some of these games that we're losing, but we have no luck. We don't make the plays when we need to make the plays. So consistency is definitely an issue, but that's all the way down from the front office to the dysfunction in the coaching that we're having right now, the dysfunction between the players and the coaching. You can't tell me there isn't. There is. There's absolutely something wrong in the organization. Either the players aren't playing for the coaches, the players aren't playing with the players. something is happening in that locker room that is not producing on the field. And there is certain players that are producing, but it's just not enough because football is a team sport. And when your team is averaging, 22 points a game with Derek Carr, but our defense is allowing 27 points a game, the math doesn't add up, and it's just not going to add up because our defense can't stop a tumbleweed coming down the defense when they need to in certain times of the game. Yes, they allowed us to get the ball in the fourth quarter at the end of the game after they had allowed them to get ahead to 25-20, and we went 3 and out, and the defense let us get the ball again. But the offense then had 4 minutes to score, and we knew that we couldn't allow any time on the clock because if we did, we weren't really confident in our defense to stop them again. So we drove the entire field, and then with 40 seconds left and a 4th and 6, we decided not to go for a first down and try to just go for it all, and it failed. But at that point, I already knew it wasn't going to happen because we haven't been able to get lucky any of these games. So just no luck whatsoever for the Las Vegas Raiders. So that's what I think about that. There is some, definitely key players that we've lost this year that definitely affected that. Not having Darren Waller, not having Renfro. Blake Martinez plays for 2 games. Head tackler retires. We don't have Denzel Perryman, head tackler. We don't have Devon Diablo, head tackler. We don't have Jonathan Hankins. He was a good run stopper. We don't have Nate Hobbs, big tackler, head tackler. And I say head tackler is like they lead in the team in tackles. Every week they lead the team in tackles most of the time when one of them was there or they're very close. All those players that I named led the team in tackles most of the time. Defensively, if I was talking about them. Honorable mentions that I still think kind of are playing: DJ Turner, Sam Webb, Damron Harmon. Those players are still producing on the field and looking better, getting better, things like that. But it's just not producing. And then players that really are frustrating me right now that I don't even want to see play in a game is Zamir White. He hasn't done anything since the preseason. He does not look like the same player. Keep putting in Abdullah instead of Zamir White, please, or even Brandon Bolden, which we haven't seen any. Britton Brown we have in the backfield, but I haven't seen anything of him. Anthony Everett playing zone is frustrating. So other than that, and Keenan Cole, oh my God, do not let me see Keenan Cole in the first string offense. We need to get rid of a running back and pick up another wide receiver because Keenan Cole ain't cutting it for me. And Mac Hollins was playing really good in the first of the season, but not doing too good now. So, yes, I just don't see it working with Coach McDaniels, even though I don't see us getting rid of him because Mark Davis is already behind him, paid him his money, and says he has a 4-year contract. So he ain't going to be able to get out of that when he's still in debt to Gruden. And then now has McDaniels. He's going to go with the process. And unfortunately, I don't ever see the Patriot way being the Raider way. And let me know what you all think about that. Thank you so much for tuning in. Midwest Raider game update. Thank you for letting me vent a little bit. Raider Nation, if you want to talk football, talk about anything I talked about, please leave some comments. Also, we do have the Denver Broncos, but I'm not even talking about it because there's no reason. We don't know how this team is going to respond. When I watched the game review for the Colts game, when we lose to a Colts that's never coached before, and they're just as bad as we are, the beginning of it is like, well, somebody's got to win. And I thought that was super funny because honestly, somebody does have to win, and it wasn't going to be us. And of all the games I thought Josh McDaniels would want to win, would be this one to prove that, he is an able coach that can get his team against a coach that's never coached before. So very upsetting on that. But we have the Denver Broncos, and we did beat them in the first meeting. But I honestly I don't think we're going to win. Call me a naysayer this week, but I don't see us pulling it off against the Denver Broncos. If we can't beat the Indianapolis Colts, hadn't done anything in like 7 games. They hadn't scored touchdowns. They hadn't done anything in 7 games. They had a horrible 7-game stretch, and then we make them look awesome. we make every team look awesome when they're coming back from 20-point deficits, 17-point deficits, and they're coming back and beating the Raiders. I just don't have faith. And I honestly think we might be on a tanking type schedule for draft picks. So let me know what you all think. I'm always optimistic, sort of. But with the Raiders, it's just really hard right now. So I'm not going to even call it this week. I'll let you know in the next video how we did, and we'll go from there. All right. Thank you for letting me talk. Midwest Raider game update, and we'll check you all later.